Well, holy Sheeta. A whole lot of stuff happened on this episode. This is probably the biggest news episode. Well, no, I'm not even going to say probably. This is the biggest news episode ever for AEW. So much stuff happened. It felt like I got run over by a Mack truck. This is the first time in a long time an episode of wrestling has just floored me with how much stuff actually happened in such a short amount of time. And I was there for two shows in a row during the invasion where way back in 2001 where lots of stuff happened on every episode during that July period. I was in the middle of July in 2001 at some of those shows, but this show, holy crap, so much stuff happened, and we have the executive vice president of Impact Wrestling running off with the AEW World Champion with the championship belt.
God damn you, Cyrus. I have not trusted him since ECW. No good son of a... so much happened on this show. Oh my god, there's there's angles that I probably don't even remember because we knew the show was going to be big. We knew they were going to do something big. I was expecting the two biggest angles in the history of the company on the same show big.
Yeah, this show was nuts. Yeah, so everybody I'm sure has heard at this point, Sting has shown up at AEW signing a multi-year deal with AEW. He is going to be around for a while. I assume he is not going to be an in-ring performer because he'll pretty much get killed if he takes a bump. So that is not going to happen. So I'm curious how they end up using him. And it looks like, I mean, I would not be bummed if he took Darby Allin under his wing. They seem to be kindred spirits in that sense.
Yeah, that was the direction that they cheated. And it looked like, it just looked so natural because Darby kind of looks like a cross between Surfer Sting and Crow Sting. And, yeah, so I wonder what his role is going to be because he can't bump. He's 61 years old and has spinal stenosis. He can't do stuff in ring. Now he will do some physical angles, probably where he hits people with a bat, but he can't take. But so I'm wondering if, and I hope that this wouldn't be a bad direction, but the possibility that maybe he's going to be some kind of authority figure. But they don't need to. AEW does not need to start beating that whole authority figure deal into the ground. I'm thinking he needs to be around and because he needs to be the voice of the company on the television show, the representative of the company was what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a problem with Tony Khan. Everybody knows Tony Khan's running the show, and we've never really had a problem with him just kind of mouthpiecing through the commentary team, being an off-screen, right. Wizard of Oz, man behind the curtain type of guy. We all know he's there. We all know what he's doing. So, I mean, that would be fine. He always sends everything through the commentary team. I'm curious where this goes with Sting. I'm curious how this plays out and what he is ultimately be going to do. Maybe they are going to use him mostly as an ambassador to continue just getting the word out there for AEW. He can travel around and he could be a scout for all I know, or just somebody to be out there, be the face of the company to bring people in.
But I don't know how much good you can do trying to re-attract lapsed fans from 20 years ago to modern wrestling, but if anybody can get that old WCW fan base to at least see what the deal is with AEW, it's bringing Sting back to TNT. Got to be a smart move. If anything's going to help, that will.
Yeah, and well, now that I'm even thinking about it, with how this show ended, there is clearly a relationship now AEW with Impact, and Sting was in Impact, so there's a lot of video footage of Sting available to AEW now through the relationship with Impact Wrestling. So at least they can use that footage to put together whatever they need for some of his stuff.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
All right, so thanks everybody for tuning into That's Wrestling. No, this isn't the end of the show. This is the beginning of the show, and we are going to be talking about AEW Dynamite from December 2nd, 2020, a show that was labeled Winter is Coming, containing the AEW World Championship match between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega, and so much more happening on this. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1 at the end. There's also a Discord. Link is in the show notes in the description. If you're listening to this as a podcast, head over to the YouTube channel because we do these shows live, so you can join in the conversation in the chat and all that fun stuff if you want to join us live. And of course, you can see us if you are interested in actually watching instead of listening, which is perfectly fine. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can grab this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. And with me tonight, I have Trey Wisecarver. We talked like 2 days ago. How's it going?
Yeah, happy to be here, man. I had to be here for the biggest and most newsworthy Dynamite of all time. And for the YouTube viewers, I bought a new camera for the occasion, so because I finally realized how horrible my other one looked.
So we're getting there with him. We need to get him some extra lighting, and then we should be good. Get him a better microphone, and we'll be awesome.
That'll be next.
But yeah, so yes, if you listen to the show, Trey is always on the New Japan stuff, and I'm sure we're going to be covering New Japan some more in the next couple of days. I have like one match left from night 10, so hopefully I'll get through night 11 and 12 tomorrow, so hopefully I'll be up to a little bit closer to up to date.
I finished night 10. I watched night 10 this morning. So.
Alrighty. So let's get into this show. It was a balmy 40 degrees in Jacksonville last night, and they are wrestling in an open air venue. They did have some kind of heaters around the ring blowing at the ring, so they probably stayed at least warm enough, and it didn't look like it was windy. Usually you can see the ring apron blowing and all that stuff, so I think it might have been okay, especially once you get going. It's actually probably kind of nice to wrestle in cool weather, or in this case, cold weather, just to keep yourself cool and go longer.
Yeah, and the heaters even played a role in the finish of the main event. So then every little thing counts in this company. There were a few people wearing coats, and just Jake Hager had this ridiculous long trench coat that was just flowing around that I just it's got to be freaking cold right now. And
Justin Roberts, he had a big overcoat on as well over his tuxedo, so that was always good. So we start off with the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royale. This match has so much happened in it. We could talk about just this match in terms of storylines, and it would be the length of a normal show.
Dude, I would have Meltzer and Alvarez spent, I swear to God, the 10-15 minutes just on every little detail of this battle royal. There's so much. Almost every elimination had something to do with a larger story.
So let's get into it. They announced, just like last time, the last two standing will fight next week for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. In a little inset promo, MJF was with Wardlow and Sammy. Basically says that either of these two men are the ones left standing, that he'll be the leader because it isn't my ring, it's our ring. Sammy clearly is not buying this at all in the background. And then just lots of storylines happening. So we have Spears and Scorpio Sky are standing on the outside. They're waiting to get into the ring because they're like, no, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. Sammy, Wardlow, and MJF, they all hang out together, hang on the edge of the ring, ducking down in the corner for a while throughout this entire match. And then we get into the eliminations that I have at least 7 of them here that all have storyline implications. So the first one, Matt Hardy eliminates one of his proteges, Isaiah Cassidy.
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious over the last, ever since Full Gear that Matt is slowly turning heel. This furthered that. Yeah, poor Isaiah Cassidy. Dick move, Matt.
Then
I'm sorry. Go. I was just put out he keeps on working with Mark Quinn for the rest of the match, and it's just you're just kind of being a dick, man.
Next up, Silver, Reynolds, and Hangman are fighting together. They eliminate Serpentico, and Silvers jumps on Hangman's back, piggyback style, and is waving his hand in the round, celebrating woo, we did it. And then the 3 of them also eliminate Luther. And then we have Scorpio Sky eliminating Spears, and then Spears goes over to Tully. Tully gives him the loaded glove, and even though Spears has been eliminated, he jumps up onto the apron, gives Sky a rabbit punch to the base of the neck. That would kill somebody if it was a legit shot. And so he's basically knocked loopy. He gets eliminated. So we have Sky and Spears. That story continues on here. Then we have Miro and Kip Sabian beating up on Penelope's ex-boyfriend Joey Janela for quite some time. I don't know if you really noticed that or not. Right in front of Penelope too. She's standing in the corner where they're doing their thing.
Did you know right before that the Dark Order Hangman almost went out, but they called him and threw him back in?
That hasn't happened yet.
I had it. I guess I had it in the wrong order then. Go ahead.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Sorry.
Silvers then gets eliminated. Well, first Reynolds gets eliminated. He gets knocked off the apron, and Silvers is like, "Oh my god, no!" And then Silvers gets eliminated by Hardy to a rain of boos. From Hardy and Mark Quinn, they eliminate him to a rain of boos, and then Hangman is fighting. He is sent to the outside. He's standing on the apron. He gets knocked off the apron, but all the Dark Order guys catch him, prop him back up, and then he does a buckshot lariat on Quinn. But then Matt Hardy comes in and eliminates Hangman. And then we have Kip Sabian. He is eliminated by Orange Cassidy. And then Orange Cassidy is pulled out of the ring from under the bottom rope. And then Miro rolls out as well. Miro runs Orange Cassidy into the ring post. And then Miro gets back into the ring and goes on an elimination fest. He gets rid of Lee Johnson, Matt Hardy, and Mark Quinn when Mark Quinn went for the silly string using Matt Hardy's back. Thank God, not having to hit that stupid move. And then Miro tosses Joey Janela, and then it is MJF, Sammy, Wardlow. They attack Miro. Miro does kind of that Hulk up spot where he pops up, and MJF and Sammy go flying away, but Wardlow is standing right in front of him. Wardlow cracks his neck, pulls his straps, yep, let's get this going. And then at this point, I'm like, I want to see this match.
Miro was a Hobbs fight, but I did not know I needed to see until I need that match.
Yeah, so they have a Hoss fight. Then Sammy and MJF run in to hold Miro. Wardlow then hits him, and then they throw out Miro. And then we have MJF, Sammy, Wardlow, and Jungle Boy is still in the ring. And I wrote right here, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure Orange Cassidy is still in the match, even though he was laid out on the outside.
I wrote way up here as soon as the orange thing happened, so I immediately know what the finish is going to be, and I was right.
So then Sammy and Jungle Boy have this fight on the apron, and they do so much stuff on the apron. They do a bunch of flips, and they do flips letting go of the ropes and having to make sure they land on the apron. They keep fighting. Sammy launches himself over the corner to the other catty-cornered apron side. They go up the top rope, and then MJF comes in, pushes Jungle Boy, but in doing so, Sammy goes with him, and both of them are eliminated. So after seeing that, I'm like, oh, I guess they could try to pull out all the stops on what they could try to do on the apron. If they screwed it up, no big deal. But that was like super high tension what they were doing on the apron. So MJF pushes, and the two of them are eliminated. Sammy is like, what the hell? And MJF is like, it was an accident. It was an accident. It was not an accident. And then MJF is like, we did it! Wardlow and him are in the ring, is like, we won! And then Wardlow taps him on the shoulders like, I think Orange Cassidy is still in here. So Wardlow goes out, throws Orange Cassidy in, and then Orange Cassidy just fires up. He hits an orange punch on MJF, and MJF like almost falls out of he goes over the top, and Wardlow through the second rope grabs him by the stomach and pulls him back through. And then we have Orange Cassidy hitting orange punches on both of them. And then Wardlow gets eliminated. And MJF is the second to last survivor with Orange Cassidy. So the two of them will fight next week for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And then Miro and Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford come out, and they're yelling at Orange Cassidy. Best friends are also in the ring. They came down to congratulate OC. Lots of stare downs, lots of yelling. So they continue this storyline of Penelope, Sabian, and Miro with best friends Orange Cassidy. And now we have a feud with Orange Cassidy, best friends with MJF as well.
This battle royal was so well laid out. I really want to know, who laid this match out, which I'm sure that like different people had input. Like, is Tony Khan like this freaking brilliant? And guy came out of nowhere.
I think he is, because he's the one who has also booked all the other battle royales as well. And and remember, he wrote what, 6 weeks of television in 15 minutes on a napkin because they couldn't get anywhere, and they just did it at QT Marshall's place. Or at least that's the story.
This is the year that Gato's streak as best booker ends.
Yeah, I think so. I think Tony Khan is probably getting it this year.
Definitely.
Because there has not been many screw-ups, and I feel New Japan has definitely lost a step this year. This has definitely not been the best year for New Japan.
There's nothing that has happened in AEW that's been as grating as this evil run. So.
Oh crap, there was something else I was going to say about this Battle Royale, but now I cannot remember.
Well, you didn't tell me beforehand.
Yeah, so I did not. So, or I just might have thought I had a thought, but I didn't actually have a thought. But yeah, this is great. We have continuing all these storylines. Like I said, just through these, I mean, we got 7 or 8 storylines pushed along or started or continued out of this match, which is just booking excellence out of here. There was only a couple of people that got eliminated outside of story. Obviously MJF and Jungle Boy have history, so we have that there. Kip Sabian just got tossed out of the ring by Scorpio Sky. Not Kip Sabian. Matt Sydal just kind of got unceremoniously tossed by Scorpio Sky, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So.
Have you seen the ratings? I was just looking. 913,000 viewers for Dynamite.
They hadn't come out yet, so they must have just barely come out.
Yeah, NXT did 658,000.
That's rough. Crap, and then when you said... so with the Diamond Ring, do you think somehow it is going to be Alvarez's fulfillment of what he has been asking for, with it getting to Kip Sabian, giving it to Penelope, and then realizing next year, oh crap, I have to defend this thing, or else I'm going to have to take back the ring from my wife?
Missed opportunity, man. That's
It could still come to pass if Orange Cassidy, because Orange Cassidy is in a program with Kip Sabian. So if Orange Cassidy wins it, he could like egg on Kip Sabian and put it on the line against Kip Sabian. So we could say.
Yeah, put anything on the line unless it's a belt or a briefcase. Come on. I guess you could put the ring in a briefcase.
All right. Next up, we have Chris Jericho versus Frankie Kazarian. This is their first singles match ever.
Yeah, first time ever.
They go back and forth with neither of them gaining much of an advantage for quite a length of time. Kazarian then gets sent to the outside. Jericho pulls the ref, and this is where Ortiz hits Kazarian with the mad ball behind the ref's back. They get the heat on Kaz at this point, up until they get into a striking exchange after about 5 minutes or so. Jericho and Kazarian get into a striking exchange. He hits a suplex. They go back and forth, and they go up to the top rope. Frankie hits the flux capacitor for a 2 count. I have not seen that move forever. Kazarian catches a code breaker and puts on the walls of Jericho, or just a Boston Crab, whatever you want to call it. And Ortiz jumps up on the apron. He wants to try to break it up because Jericho is in this hold for a long time, and it's probably killing Kazarian as well, doing the friggin' wall sit for about 10 minutes. But the ref is watching, and Jake Hager's like, no, don't do it. He's going to get disqualified. And then who shows up on the stage? It is MJF and Wardlow, and MJF is holding a towel in hand. It looks like he's going to throw it in. Sammy runs down and grabs it from him. And right at this point, Jericho has gotten to the ropes. He stands up and looks over and sees Sammy's the one holding the towel. And then Kaz tries a few roll-ups, but then Jericho hits the Judas effect out of nowhere and gets the pin. We'll talk about subsequent after this. But what did you think about the match in general, Frankie and Jericho? I thought it was a solid match. Was a little bit slow at the beginning, I thought, and kind of the heat segment dragged on a bit long. But I was also watching on Fight, so I stuck through in the commercial instead of seeing it picture-in-picture.
Yeah, I like this match a lot. I love Frankie Kazarian. He's a guy that's been so good for so long that I think people just kind of take it for granted. But yeah, man, singles match on national TV with Chris Jericho, he busted his ass. And man, Jericho, to his credit, man, still working, man. He's not phoning it in, man. He's still got his work boots on. I really enjoyed this match, and I'm just, man, always happy to see Frankie Kazarian get a chance to shine.
Yeah, with Jericho, I think I mentioned last week when he was facing Daniels, the two of them were just booking it back, and they're running the ropes at regular high speed like a youngin would do. Maybe not as ferociously as Bryan Daniels does, or Bryan Danielson does, but they still had it was not a Tanahashi, I'm gonna kind of do a couple skips to the rope because I can't actually run.
Jericho is it amazes me that he's is he 50 now?
He just turned 50, and
turned 50. He still does that freaking lion salt. Like, that just terrifies me every time he does it.
Yeah. It's all that DDP yoga, I guess.
Man.
Then all of the inner circle are in the ring, and Jericho's getting his hand raised. In the background, Sammy attacks MJF, and then everybody is shoving. Wardlow and Jake Hager are pushing each other, and Ortiz is pushing around, and everybody's pushing. Jericho grabs the mic and says, "Stop this shit! This is bullshit, and I've had enough of it. This is not what we planned. We needed to work together, and next week we're going to have an ultimatum. We're going to decide if we're going to work together, all of us, or the inner circle is done forever. You have 7 days." And he storms off. So Jericho is very mad at his cohorts and is throwing up this ultimatum that if everybody can't get along, then he is just done with this.
I wonder where Santana was. I think hardly anybody even noticed that he was missing.
He was?
He was. Yeah, he was. Everybody else was there except Santana.
Huh.
I don't know. I hope he's not ill or anything.
I'll have to go back and look. I thought he had come out when the shoving, or when well, I guess not. I don't know. I guess we'll hear, or hopefully he's just under the weather and decide not to come down or something. So next up we have the Young Bucks with Alex Marvez. Hey Alex, put your glasses back on. Because it draws attention to your ears. if you don't have glasses on, you look funny without glasses. Anyways, the Bucks basically, this came down to, well, one, Nick asked Marvez if he remembered being super kicked by them, and which was just a throwaway line because it really just set up Matt saying, well, I remember at Full Gear winning these titles. Basically says we're going to be fighting champions next week, TH2. You don't exactly have the record to get a shot at these titles, but if you beat us next week, we'll then give you a shot. And then some guys come out named Bowens and Caster.
Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, the team of the Acclaim.
Yes, so they call
regular viewers of AEW Dark. They were job guys and that both impressed and got put together as a tag team, and yeah.
So one of them does a early John Cena style rap, which is basically just talking in rhymes, pretty much making fun of the Bucks, saying that they look like they are looking at each other's junk on the cover of their book. Matt says, hasn't someone already done this gimmick? And then they say, you should probably look behind you. And then TH2 attacks the Bucks, starts beating on them, and then in runs Christopher Daniels with a chair and Frankie Kazarian for the save and sending them all running. So, yeah, this was not a good segment, I didn't think.
I found it a bit quizzical myself. I mean, I don't have anything against the Acclaim. They've been, they've been working matches on Dark and kind of getting experience. I don't know that they're ready for primetime national TV yet. I wonder. I mean, they were just there to provide a distraction. Why are they? What do these guys have in common with the Hybrid 2 that would give them a common cause? I wonder. But yeah, so it's probably just you remember like when randomly Luther and Serpentico became a tag team and won like a few matches?
Yeah.
And then a couple of months later, it ended up being so Jericho and Hager could beat them in a tag match and it would mean a little something. So, yeah, I'm assuming that it eventually we're going to get the Young Bucks against the Acclaimed and they'll, make them look good but beat them.
Yeah, I assume that's what's going to happen. It was a little bit of a head scratcher. Basically, I've seen this gimmick before, like exactly the same. Like the half talk rap rhyming, and that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it put a little heat on that match for next week. So
and some forced rhymes of words that didn't really rhyme, and even like a lot of times, like a guy like Eminem can make words that don't rhyme because he articulates them differently, so they actually do rhyme in the end. You throw in the Boston accent, you drop the ER and make it an A to make it rhyme with something, but yeah, they did not do it. Next up, we have Britt Baker versus legit Lila Hirsch, and hey, Justin called Rebel.
Yeah, good for her. Finally got.
She's finally being introduced at her real name.
That too, yeah.
I mean, it would have been funnier this whole time if everyone was calling her Rebel and it was only Britt calling her Reba, because that's kind of where the joke happens. Britt makes fun of Layla's height because she is, 4'11" or something. And Britt basically Layla easily drags Britt to the ground a few times, working an arm bar, and then it looked like Britt Baker like fish hooked her or something. She grabbed her mouth.
Oh, I love, Layla had a cross arm breaker and Britt like gouged her mouth, went for her teeth to get out of it. That was neat.
Yeah. And then at this point, basically they get the heat on Hirsch through a commercial break. Hirsch makes a bit of a comeback with some kicks and then a German suplex. She goes for a dive on the outside. Britt pulls Rebel in the way, and Rebel ends up taking the full brunt of the dive. Back in the ring, Britt tries the lockjaw, but Hirsch gets out of it, hits a knee to the face, but instead of going for the pin, this took way too long. She looked like she wanted to go up to the top rope. Rebel distracts. Britt pulls Hirsch pulls her away from the turnbuckle and then slams her headfirst in the middle turnbuckle, then puts on the lockjaw and gets the win. After the match, Thunder Rosa runs in and attacks Britt Baker. They have a brawl. They get pulled apart. And for good measure, Lila Hirsch hits Rebel with a suplex for good measure.
Yeah, I love Leyla Hirsch. I'm a sucker for the short, thick grappler type. The fire plug wrestler, kind of Jeff Cobb, but tiny and blonde and feminine.
Yeah,
she's green, but man, I think she's got a hell of a lot of potential.
Yeah, since she is legit, she was a high level wrestler in New Jersey, I believe they were saying. So
yeah, I believe so.
We'll see how she goes. A few spots, it looked like they got a little lost in places, like they weren't sure where they were going with some stuff, especially through the heat. Luckily, that was in picture-in-picture, but just looked like they felt like the heat was going on too long, and they're like, where are we going? How much longer till commercial's over so we can finish this thing up? But, that's going to happen, and it felt weird that this match needed a commercial. They've been just very, very strange on having to place a commercial in the middle of, like, every match.
God, the next match is even worse. But don't forget the angle that happened after this match, because an angle happened after every match.
Right.
Including this.
Which one?
The Britt, Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, I was just talking. Thunder Rosa ran in, and we had the brawl. Hirsch hit Rebel with a suplex as well, for good measure.
Okay, yeah, I missed the part where you said Thunder Roses. And sometimes I check out a little.
So, obviously, this program is going to continue on with Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, which I think is going to be a good one. It keeps Britt busy and away from Hikaru Shida. I'm guessing they're using this as basically their stopgap. I'm guessing it's going to be Britt and Hikaru Shida at Revolution in February. And it's like the last or second to last day of February or something. I believe it's like the 27th, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, last year it was on Leap Day, so
okay.
Yeah.
So
I think this is probably good for Britt because Thunder Rosa is a really good wrestler, and Britt needs to be working with really good wrestlers.
And Britt needs to stop throwing that super kick.
Yeah.
I wrote in the chat, I never thought I'd see somebody with a worse super kick than Carmella, but Britt is making a run for it here.
Not her strong point.
Yeah. She lives with and dates one of the best wrestlers in the world with one of the best super kicks in the world. I'm not sure why she can't get this. Can't he help?
Maybe they don't talk about working home.
I guess. Next up, we have Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. This match starts off fast and furious with Hobbs and Starks. Right when Hobbs and Starks get into the ring, they basically all brawl. Once everything kind of gets into control, we have Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes just working over Starks for quite some time. Cody does some light heel things like flexing kind of to the crowd and whatnot, but he worked well with Darby. They were tagging in and out quite often. Eventually, Starks lures Allin to the outside, and Hobbs is ducked down behind the apron, and he just blindside trucks over Darby Allin. He gets tossed into the barricade as well, and then gets thrown back into the ring, and now Team Taz gets the heat on Allin. They just beat the crap out of him. He just gets tossed around by Powerhouse Hobbs like he is a baby's doll. Like, he weighs 3 pounds, and he just gets tossed around. It is insane. They also mentioned that I believe Powerhouse Hobbs can bench 475, I think they said. It was over 400. And that he squats 525 and deadlifts 525. So Darby Allin weighing in at a $170 soaking wet is like nothing for this guy. They just throw him around, and at one point he does a crazy overhead throw to Darby Allin, holding him by his ears, just throwing him by his head, and he throws him towards Cody's and Darby's corner, but he doesn't get far enough to make the tag, and Hobbs just grabs Darby's arm and just drags him like he's nothing across the ring, all while giving Cody Rhodes the middle finger while he's just staring at him, just dragging it like the dead body. Eventually, Allin does manage to get out. He flips out of and lands on his feet of 2 backdrops from both Starks and Hobbs, and then Cody goes crazy and he takes out everybody, and then he runs up his own corner. Darby tags himself in on Cody's shin, while Cody then hits the Cody cutter on Ricky Starks. Then Cody dives to the outside to take out Hobbs. Allin hits the coffin drop on Starks and gets the pin, even though Starks' shoulders were clearly up.
All this favoritism to Darby Allin, man. Taz is right.
Right? I'm curious if the really bad pin will actually come in. I'm sure Taz is going to harp on it.
Oh, definitely. This was the match where the bell rang and they immediately went to commercial. That's WWE shit. You don't do that. So yeah, if you were watching on TNT, you had to watch the whole Shine and picture in picture. And then as soon as they got back, that was when Team Cat.
Okay. I didn't notice because I was watching on Fight, so I didn't even
So was I, but they threw it to commercial, and I'm just like, because that's one of my biggest WWE pet peeves. They start the match and then immediately go to commercial.
Right.
Hate that so much.
Yeah.
But Darby was awesome as face in peril, and Will Hobbs is so great as a bully. This was really good.
Yeah, he just like ragdolled him around. It was great. Then after the match is over, Hobbs runs in to attack Darby Allin. He's just beating the crap out of him. Cody had crashed and burned from the, or not crashed and burned, but he was out there from the dive. Arn Anderson comes in to try, and he starts hitting Powerhouse Hobbs in the back, and then Starks comes in and takes out Arn Anderson, and then Dustin runs in to help out. Then Brian Cage runs out, takes out Dustin, and then Team Taz is just beating the crap out of all 3 of those guys, and then we have Powerhouse Hobbs. He picks up the FTW Championship belt, and they prop up Cody. Looks like Cody's going to get hit with the belt, and then the lights go out, and we have some music playing, and up on the screen we see some winter scenes and some time lapse, and then we slowly see come into frame the word Sting. Holy crap!
Tony Schiavone's selling of this made it so much. Oh my god, he was so happy. And it's just the beautiful symmetry of, the main event of the last Nitro on TNT was Sting and Ric Flair. Tony Schiavone called that match. And just Tony Schiavone's reaction to Sting, man, was... Oh, I loved it.
I kind of hope they kayfabed Tony on this whole thing. Like, he had no idea Sting was there, but I doubt it.
I'm thinking he had to, because he sounded too sincere. It was great.
Anyways, Sting walks out. They have, complete with snow, they had snow machines, and it was making snow, and he walks out. This scene was amazing. I did it the first time. I went back earlier today to rewatch it to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I didn't get chills last night, but I did the second time I watched it, which was kind of funny. He walks down to the ring, and he walks right up to Arn, and he's just staring at him. And then he walks over to Dustin, who has kind of propped himself up in one of the corners. He just stares at him. And then he walks over to Cody, and he kneels down using his bat as a little bit of a cane, just kind of resting on it. And he stares at Cody, And then he gets up, he walks over to Darby Allin. Darby Allin pulls himself up in the corner, kind of stands as tall as he can, even though he's 4 inches shorter than Sting. And Sting just kind of looks at him like, kind of the side, kind of wraps his head around to the other side, like just checking him out like a dog would do to a new dog, just kind of getting in there. And then he screams to the crowd, and then he turns around and walks off back into the snow whence he came. And it just looks so great with the snow hitting the camera lens too. It was amazing.
And so Sting was Cody Rhodes' favorite wrestler growing up, so you just know he had to be having the time of his life here.
And none of them broke. Everybody stayed stoic. I had figured there'd be smiles somewhere, but everybody managed to keep it together. And then after the commercial break comes back, they say Sting has signed a multi-year deal with AEW. Holy damn!
So I tweeted, why exactly did 4 guys run away from a 61-year-old man with spinal stenosis? Pretty sure Brian Cage could have neutralized that baseball bat. And Brian Cage liked that tweet. So.
Oh, did he really? That's funny.
I didn't tag him in it. He just found it somehow.
That's great. Anything else you want to touch on? We talked about it earlier in the show, so...
Man, that was... I was surprised. There had been rumors of Sting being in conversation with AEW, but I didn't really think much of it. Just I had no idea. I'm like, what is going on? Who is this going to be? And I was as shocked as anybody when the word Sting came up. It was, Sting was like, never like one of my favorites. I wasn't a huge WCW fan at the right time, but just historically, it's Sting. I got to see him live twice, and it was the pay-per-view where he shot the angle with Triple H for the WrestleMania match. So he just came out and pointed the bat at the sign, and then I was also at his last match, what happened to be his last match, that pay-per-view match with Seth Rollins when he took the buckle bomb and got injured.
Yeah, I never saw Sting because I was not watching WCW, and then they died, and then he was in TNA, so I never saw him live there, and then I fell out of wrestling for a while, so I was not there for any of his WWE stuff. So,
you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, they gave us the rundown of next week's show. We'll talk about that after the final match. You know what? Screw it. Let's talk about it now. We have FTR is going to be facing Pillman and Garrison, the Varsity Blondes, they're calling them. We have Orange Cassidy versus MJF for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. We already knew that. Dustin versus 10. I'm not sure how that comes into play. I don't remember. I'm kind of lost on this one.
I don't know.
I mean, there's always been some tension between the Dark Order and the Nightmare family, but it was kind of a lull this week, so it just feels like it's picking up somewhere where it wasn't. Bucks versus TH2 in a non-title match. We have Abaddon in action. We have Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros versus Kingston, Butcher, and Blade. That should be an interesting one. We also have Sting is going to speak, and Inner Circle has their ultimatum, and later we find out Kenny Omega most likely will be speaking as well. So, should be an interesting one next week. Again, we have Alex Marvez, and I still do not like... He's not very good.
Alex Marvez.
It just made this segment a little bit worse, and they might have it would have been work to actually do a retake on this and not do it live. If they actually, it was probably a pre-tape anyways, but they said they were doing it live. Marvez is talking to Shida, asking about Abaddon, why she was reluctant to engage with her when she came out last week. Shida says she's not afraid. Abaddon wants a challenge. That's cool. I mean, she's just a girl doing zombie cosplay. I do cosplay sometimes. It's normal. And then in the middle of saying normal, a sound of a crashing pipe or something happens. She is looking a little scared, looking around a little bit. She asks, can we do this again? And Alex is like, we're live, so no. And Shida excuses herself, and Alex throws out the worst line, or is horribly delivered at least. Hikaru Shida says she's not scared of Abaddon. Well, no crap, that's what she just said.
Yeah. Just sucked. To not be too negative, Hikaru Shida's English is progressing very well. Like, you can tell over the time that she's lived in the United States, her English is slowly getting stronger. She's sounding consistently intelligible now.
Yeah, and even throwing in the little bit of slang where she said, this is what she said. She said, Abaddon wants a challenge. Fine, cool. Like throwing in those throwaway words that we use in English, like fine, okay, like, use those here. And yeah, so I thought this was fine from her, but then I think it was a little overdrawn. Again, I think she's pulling it a little too far towards the... She should be more perplexed and less scared, I think.
Yeah, that not a good way to portray a babyface. I don't think.
And it's like, you already beat Abaddon. You beat her in her first match in AEW.
Oh, you're the world champion.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be scared of anybody.
Right. So she needs to come off as a bit more of a badass here. Like the words she was saying to her originally, I'm not afraid, she's just a girl doing zombie cosplay. I'm like, that's a badass statement. And then it goes off the rails.
Right? Yeah.
Next up, we have Moxley doing a promo earlier in the day, just backstage talking to the camera. I wrote this down word for word because once again, Moxley is just amazing. He says, I touched down in Jacksonville late last night, and I can feel the tension in the air, the calm before the storm. Today feels like a holiday. People showed up early, collars and ties, freshly pressed suits. A little something extra is in the air tonight. Magic! The biggest night in AEW history. Look how far we've come. 2 years ago, this was just an idea. Me, the whole world wanted to write me off. Burnt out and washed up. So, you know what I did? I took my hand, I reared back, and I bitch slapped the entire pro wrestling world across the mouth. Me and Kenny Omega have been on a collision course our entire lives, whether we knew it or not, destined to be rivals, two diametrically opposed individuals who want the same thing, the best two wrestlers in the world. Tonight, two warriors battling with swords on top of a mountain, lightning crashing. It's a long way down, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The contracts have been signed. The promos have been cut. There's only one thing left to do tonight. Go out there and make them go absolutely banana. And that was not a misspeak right there. That was a tribute to the late, great Pat Patterson, who passed away early yesterday morning.
Yeah, a very subtle but wonderful tribute. I was explaining to my wife earlier in the day who Pat Patterson was, and I explained the go banana thing because I quote that all the time, just because I've always thought it was funny. And so she heard me go. I just said "aw," and she goes, "What?" And I explained. Mox said "go banana." Really, I love Mox, man. He's great.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If people don't know, Pat Patterson always had this thing about not using the plural of a lot of words. He was a native French speaker. Actually, English is his second language. But just out of a goof, he would always drop the S off of a lot of words. So he'd say "go nut" instead of "go nuts," and "go banana" instead of bananas. So yeah, I thought that was a great little thing right there. And he kind of gave a wink to the camera as well. So really good here. Then we actually have the match of Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. Don Callis is on commentary for this, reprising his role on commentary just like he did for Kenny Omega's match back at Full Gear against Hangman Page. They gave this match plenty of time. The bell rung just shy of 9:30. What's up?
I want to point out, had Don Callis not been on Full Gear to do the Omega Page match, this would have been an angle alert, right?
Right.
But the fact that he was there and nothing happened, but he's here to call another Big Kenny match, of course. That checks out.
Right, not even that. He was in the 30 Years of Jericho. He was one of the taped segments thrown in. And then, yes, doing the match at Full Gear. And then it's like, it's just he's going to come in for some of Kenny's matches because he's known Kenny since he was 10 years old, which is legit. So exactly. I did not see this coming at all because of, like you said. So they stand up to each other and they kind of jibber jab a little bit at each other, but you can't hear what they're saying. And then Moxley, I noticed this. I don't know if anybody else did. When Moxley starts to back up, he turned his back and then turned around before they started to engage. So I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I thought it was a nice little subtle thing. Mox saying, I'm not scared of you. If that was on purpose or not. I wrote a lot for this, so I'm going to kind of skip over some stuff and condense this a little bit. This match starts off slow, lots of mat work. Kenny hits some strikes. Moxley shrugs off some chops. We get a snap Rana from Moxley, from Omega on Moxley, and then Moxley hits this kind of swing around sidewalk slam. They fight onto the outside, throwing each other around. Omega gets tossed into the fixed seats in the lower bowl. I bet that did not feel very good. There's no give on that. They make their way back to the ring. Omega runs Moxley into the edge of the ring. Omega gets sent into the ring post. And then Omega hits a drop kick to the knee and a dragon screw leg whip. And then he picks up Moxley on the outside and does a knee breaker using the barricade. I hope Moxley wears shin pads under his pants because that would suck. I have landed on a pipe on my shin before and it hurts. Then they get back into the ring. They exchange. They fight some more and then they double down and they both get up to their knees and they have a good old-fashioned New Japan striking exchange on the knees. And then Moxley puts on the crossface. They exchange roll-ups out of here. Omega hits a Terminator dive. Then Moxley hits the paradigm shift when he comes back into the ring. But he doesn't cover. He rolls to the outside and he goes under the ring and he tosses two chairs into the ring, and everybody's like, what is he doing? They talk about the gentleman's agreement that we're not going to be doing weapons. He sets them up opposite each other, and Moxley sits down in one of them and invites Omega to sit in the other. And then they have, I giggled just like I did when Ishii and Kota Ibushi were slapping each other in the face. Same thing here. They slap each other in the face a bunch of times, and then they start throwing punches, and then Moxley throws one more, and it kind of knocks back Omega a bit, but he doesn't fall over. He just kind of stands up out of his chair, and then Omega runs in and hits a huge V-trigger, knocking Moxley out of the chair. We have Moxley hitting a rebound suplex, hitting the King Kong lariat. Then he hits another huge paradigm shift, and he is slow to cover, and Omega kicks out at 2, and then Omega rolls to the outside. Moxley goes for a dive. Omega V-triggers him out of mid-air. Missile drop kick to the back. V-trigger in the corner. Tiger Driver 98 for a 2 count. Omega hits 2 V-triggers. Moxley catches a third. Actually, Moxley eggs him on for a third one and then catches it. Hmm?
Or the Croytrath somewhere in there. I haven't seen that in a long time.
The which one?
Croytrath, that Kenny's old finishing move, that German suplex gilly thing.
Oh,
he did for a 2 count.
I must have missed that.
Did you catch during the commercial on the fight feed? They had a little conversation about Minoru Suzuki.
Yes, that was awesome. That was funny.
Yeah.
I think the quote was, "If you can beat Minoru Suzuki with anything short of an assault rifle, that is one heck of a feat."
JR line, and it was wonderful. Yeah, awesome.
So Moxley escapes a one-winged angel. Omega escapes a paradigm shift. Moxley fights out of another one-winged angel, and then Omega hits a wheelbarrow suplex, rolls through it into a 2 count, and then on the outside, so Omega goes up to the top rope, and I think the spot was supposed to be Moxley was going to push him off to the floor, but Omega ended up losing his balance and dropping to the floor anyways, but he landed on his feet, so Moxley's like, I can work with this. He rolls to the outside, he kind of pushes him into the ring apron, and then does an overhead throw into the heaters on the outside. So I think the spot was actually going to push him off the top rope, and Omega was going to hit the heaters off the top rope and then go in here. But these two are professionals, and they covered for the spot. Super easy. So at this point, the doc gets called over. So we have a short check from the doctor. Obviously, this was storyline. Back in the ring, Moxley just kind of interrupts and throws Omega back into the ring. And then Moxley gets the mount and starts laying punches down. Don Callis leaves the commentary desk. He has a microphone in his hand. It's not turning on, but it eventually does. And he's pleading with the ref saying, look, he's hurt. He's hurt. And then Moxley gives Don a forearm shiver. And when he does this, the microphone flies into the ring. Omega picks it up behind the ref's back and hits Jon Moxley right in the forehead, causing him to bleed. And then he pulls the knee pad down, hits 4 V-triggers in a row, and then hits the one-winged angel. And Kenny Omega gets the victory and is the new AEW World Champion, giving Jon Moxley his first ever defeat in AEW. Holy crap.
Oh my god, that finish was so perfectly executed, man. Don Callis, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, you got 3 guys who put a lot of thought into stuff, and just this finish was incredibly well executed. Man, I want to. So the point when Omega took the bump into the heater, I was concerned for a second, and then I looked, and I remembered a lesson I learned that it was the last WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans, and I was at I think an Evolve show, and I was just by coincidence, Dave Belter was sitting right behind me, so we were having a conversation, and it was Matt Riddle and Will Ospreay, and they did a crazy thing off the top rope where they were selling, and everybody was watching, and I never realized this, but I always remember it now. It's when there's an angle, if you're concerned, pay attention. If the people checking on him are referees and not actual medical personnel, it's a work.
Yep. Yeah. So good to know. And they didn't throw up the X or anything like that. That's usually, though they have worked the X as a work before, but you can usually tell sometimes with that one too. So.
Was calling for the bell, but I guess he was just signaling for more referees to come help.
Yeah. So yeah, this match I thought started off a bit slow. I was a little weary of it to begin with, but then it really started to pick up, and this became an excellent match. It wasn't the greatest Omega match I've ever seen. Probably wasn't the greatest Moxley match I've ever seen either, but it was a solid 4.5 stars, I would say, out of this.
I said 4.5 stars.
Alrighty. And then the story of all stories, it is shown that Don Callis was behind this whole thing. Kenny Omega grabs the belt and he flees with Don Callis down the tunnel out of the building towards a waiting car, and Alex Marvez runs up and says, "What the hell is going on?" Don says, "Tune in Tuesday to find out." And Alex is like, "What are you talking about? Dynamite's on Wednesday." And Don says, "Impact on Access TV on Tuesday. Kenny Omega will reveal all." And then they get into their vehicle and they drive off. Holy crap. We have confirmed here, we have Impact AEW relationship happening, and I got all types of things to talk about from this point.
Oh man, the matches that I want to say, I can't even. There's so much potential in this, and then you didn't even mention it. They're fleeing. They run past Tony Khan, who's like, "What the hell is going on?" They're running past crowds of people who are just like. Just the reaction. Some of the people, it was a little over the top, silly, but just the whole thing was really, really great, and I didn't see this coming at all. So
I did not either. And now, if we go back and look at some stuff, let's talk about the attack on Jon Moxley. Who did it? Now we have an entire new roster of people that we could be putting under the microscope. Some people are saying it was Sami Callihan.
Sami Callihan and Jon Moxley sounds like the best use of Sami Callihan.
It sounds like a bloodbath. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
So people are speculating that, it was probably an Impact person who took out Jon Moxley. Then we also have the callback to when the Dynamite after Full Gear, when Kenny Omega was leaving the building, he was on a phone with somebody talking about, I'll be there in a little bit. And could have that been Don Callis as well? Kind of setting this whole thing up. So all types of things. We have who attacked Jon Moxley, and how long has this scheme been brewing between Omega and Don Callis?
I will point out the obvious. You know who else works for Impact? Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows.
Yes. So that was also one. Could they either be behind it or could they be with Kenny Omega? And this is where Kenny Omega gets kind of a heel faction. Instead of him teaming with the Bucks as a heel faction, what if it is the Good Brothers that he is going to hook back up with?
Omega and the Good Brothers against the Young Bucks and Hangman Page.
Right? Yeah, that could be crazy. We could also head down that maybe all 6 of those guys reform some sort of stable as well. That could be a possibility down the road, maybe. But it seems like we're most likely going to get through this relationships, Bucks versus the Good Brothers.
Yeah, man. A lot of people were down on that. I think a lot of people are still thinking that Impact is the Impact of old, and I've watched a little bit this year, not a ton. It just to kind of check it out, and it's much better the past couple of years than it was. It's not. This isn't the garbage that Vince Russo was booking on Spike TV years ago. They've got they've been putting on better shows. They've got a really talented roster, and there is just so much that can happen here. Something else that I thought about, and this could be anything or it couldn't. Cody Rhodes said that he would never challenge for the AEW World Championship again.
Right. So we could see him head over and challenge for the Impact World title, which could be interesting. I'm curious how this is all going to interplay. Would it make sense for even Tony Khan just to buy Impact and roll it under the AEW umbrella and then make Impact the second show of AEW? Just call it AEW Impact.
I don't know about that, but I mean, who knows? Dude, this was just it makes perfect sense in retrospect, but and even like going back like this summer on Twitter with like, the North talking about wanting to work FTR, and FTR's have your boss call our boss. There's all of the FTR versus the North, FTR versus the Motor. We could get the Motor City Machine Guns in AEW. So much, man, so much that could. Impact has a lot of. It's been flying under the radar for so long, but man, Eddie Edwards can still go. They got a lot of great talent that we might be seeing on but I don't see how this is anything but a great thing, and especially with Don Callis and Tony Khan being the creative forces behind this. I've got a lot of faith in this.
Yeah, I'm curious how all these relationships work out. And I could see a situation where we have AEW, NWA, and Impact all working together, putting up a united front, and slowly displacing some of that WWE foothold as kind of like this trio, if they manage to all work together. They all seem to be working together and playing friendly right now, and it sounds like Tony Khan is definitely kind of the guy that he kind of brings this together and is kind of the driving force behind this. And I think he wants what's best for the business in general and doesn't want to screw these guys. He doesn't want to put these guys out of business for the sake of his business. He wants to elevate everybody instead of just kind of taking it over for himself. That's how I feel when it comes to Khan. I could be completely wrong, and he could be, Vince in sheep's clothing, but I doubt it.
I certainly get the feeling that he's such a wrestling fan. He wants what's best for the business. Like, he wants the business overall to be healthier, and he has the power to help make that happen. And he's doing it. And yeah, man. Some kind of, maybe, like the Pro Wrestling USA in the 80s, except, that actually, like, the people running the different components can get along, so it won't fizzle out and end up being nothing. But I've got, Tony Khan has not, like, there hasn't been, there have been some missteps, but he hasn't. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to continue giving him the benefit of the doubt until he gives me a reason not to.
Yeah, he hasn't totally shit the bed.
No.
No, he has built up a lot of goodwill with me. Just because everything seems to pay off. If it's going bad, he just pulls the plug if the plug needs to be pulled. For most things we've seen. So
the Nightmare Collective,
right? That eventually got pulled, which was fine. I mean, you tried it; it's okay. We probably knew it wasn't going to work to begin with, but a lot of us could see that. But you give it a shot. You pulled the plug. At least you didn't overstay and try to make something work that didn't. I think the only thing that they kind of stubbornly stuck to was the Dark Order. And I think the Dark Order kind of turned around, and that's like the comeback kid of AEW.
Yeah, that's the one that really impresses me. The when they did the big angle when Brody ran over Cody for the title and had that ending with the Dark Order like really hot angle, like imagine this in December when they had that angle that everybody hated.
Yeah.
But nobody would have guessed that the Dark Order... And then John Silver's like one of the most popular guys on the roster, and... Yeah, I wish I could have a conversation with Tony Khan, because I have my own obsession with understanding the art of booking, and I want to know, like, who did he study? Because he's only been doing this for a year, and I've learned so much about booking just from watching what he's doing. So I gotta wonder, like, man, who is he? Who are his mentors that are helping guiding him as a booking mind?
Yeah, I'm curious who he's speaking to in who he's actually speaking to, and then who he is taking inspiration from the past, but he actually doesn't have a actual connection with them. He doesn't talk to them, or they're dead or something like that. But I mean, if you listen to his early interviews right when AEW was starting, he had a really good one on Stone Cold's podcast, and he would talk about all this really obscure territory stuff. He was a tape trader when he was a kid. He'd hunt down everything he possibly could. And Stone Cold would throw out a random event that happened on a random show that you had never heard of. And he's like, oh yeah, that happened on July 17th. 1980 whatever, he would pull out so he also has like an eidetic memory as well, it seems, so he can like remember all this stuff, which helps as far as continuity goes as well.
Yeah, man, it's really incredible. I just am so impressed at how good of a booker he is with just having to just come into this out of nowhere.
All right. Anything else we want to touch on before we wrap it up here out of one of the most story-driven and story coming out of shows ever?
We mentioned that the show ended with Eddie Kingston yelling that he wanted Lance Archer right then, and then the show just went off the air.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. That was kind of funny.
That was the standby in case Mox and Omega decided that it was time to go home early, and then but it was exactly, like the show ended exactly right on time, and I'm just, why did nobody, you don't get a lot of that kind of lack of quality control in AEW, and it was just another funny layer to the absolute chaotic end of the show.
Well, it's always with Eddie Kingston. Who's running off the end of the show, because he's done that like 3 times where he's run off the end of the show, like he kept going and they just had to cut away. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, that was one thing. I think now that you bring it up, that's something they definitely should have. Okay, so this actually prompts one thing. So at the beginning of this match, they said this match has a 60-minute time limit, and TNT has given us permission to stay with this match until the end. So if it runs over, it runs over. I like them putting in there, even though they didn't even touch the run over at all. Just saying we are allowed to run over if we need to. Put me out like, oh, they're going to run long. And then when it was over, it's like, perfect. They still ended on time.
Yeah, the show ended exactly on time, but you weren't watching for it to end right then because of the possibility that it could go over.
Right.
It's little things like that, man.
So that was good, but then the other little thing where they missed is that they should have said, all right, we still have, 31 minutes until the end of the show. If this match ends up being short and we still have time, we have Kingston and Archer sitting as a potential match that we could have after this match. Then that would have made sense when Kingston runs out and said, I don't want to wait till next week, I don't know, or whatever, and say, I want Lance Archer now. That would have made way more sense because they kind of just shoehorned it in there instead of at the beginning saying, yeah, we have 31 minutes left in the show. If this match wraps up early, we have another match waiting in the on deck circle.
Yeah, that was, AEW wasn't perfect. They've got room for improvement, certainly, but man, what a show.
Have you been watching BTE lately?
I have not seen the last 2 weeks yet.
I have not either, so I was hoping you did, which is fine. Actually, let me check right now while we are here. Oh, that is totally the wrong account. So, All Elite Wrestling. I know that Kingston continued on with his promo post show, and Jake Roberts had come out because the feed did
for like a second.
Yeah. So I'm curious if that actually hit the YouTube channel or not. Just kind of zipping through that. No, it doesn't. So. It will be interesting to see how this. Are you going to watch Impact on Tuesday?
I think I have to now.
Right? Thanks for adding more wrestling to my plate, bastards.
Right? Yeah, Jesus.
I already got a ton of New Japan I gotta watch. AEW is like, oh, thank God, 2 hours a week. And then it's like, oh, awesome. But now it's like, oh, now I gotta watch 4 hours in 2 days every week.
At least the tag league is almost over.
Yes. Oh, geez. So it'll be an interesting one. So I think I'm done. Is that it for you?
I'm done. At Wrestling Cleo on Twitter.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into That's Wrestling. If you would like to get a hold of us, comments, question, feedback, all that good stuff, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can also follow That's Wrestling 1 on Twitter, the number 1 on the end. Also, there is a Discord link in the description and show notes. You come hang out. There's always people talking about random stuff in there. Plus, we have a channel for wrestling specific. Also, give us a review over on your podcast app of choice. It really helps out. And oh crap, there's one more thing I usually plug, but I'm totally head over to the YouTube channel if you are listening to this as a podcast, because we do this show live, and you can come put in your 2 cents in the chat room or ask questions and all that fun stuff. So for Trey Wisecarver, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.